Hello, welcome back to class. I'm super excited to have you for this journey. Now today we'll be learning PHP. Now PHP is a server-side programming language. What that simply means is for you to be able to run your PHP code or for your PHP code to work properly, you need what we call a server. Now servers are bots, meaning what we call domain and hosting. So we host our website on somebody else's server, then our PHP code runs. But how do we test our PHP code before we put it on somebody else's system to confirm if it works? So some set of programmers came up with a local server. It's a kind of software that gives you a server-like ability, so it's called a local server. Now for this class we'll be working with XAMPP, so you should have that on the platform, and that is that's part of the training material. So install them properly. If you don't know how to install, there's a video on that. So once you've installed properly, you should have this. Then all you just have to do is double click on it. Then once it comes up, then we'll be able to start some. So my server is on. I just need to on two things. There's the Apache, which is responsible for my website loading, and there's the SQL, which is responsible for my database. So we'll get to database later in the class, but for Apache, simply means this is the one that will make my code work. So all you just have to do is click on start here. If you are doing this for this first time, it may bring up a pop-up box asking you, just click accept or allow. Then if you do this also, it should give you that pop-up box. But because I've been using this software, this local server for a while, that's why you are not getting them. Now when you know you are having them properly, two things will be involved. You've seen these two guys showing you green, then it's giving you some ports or PID, then ports. You can see that there are two ports showing here. There's PID and they are showing me green. Then I'm good to go. Okay, so I'll come back to our code. Then all I just have to do is to create a file. So for me to create a file, I'll create a folder. Then this folder, sorry, hope I'm picking the right guy. So I'll create a folder. Then this folder will be called PHP. So this is where all our PHP code will go into. Okay, so now in here I'll create a PHP file. So let me just call this also index, then .php. Now one thing about PHP is PHP work almost identical. It gives you the ability to do both the front and the back end. What I'm saying is it takes HTML code. So I can do HTML code here. I can just call this my website using PHP. So that's one thing I just want to introduce. PHP also takes in some HTML code. Okay, so I don't need this. Now the first thing I need to do is now show you the syntax, the way PHP is being written. Now when you want to write a PHP code, you have to use a PHP tag. So then I'll call this the opening tag, opening PHP tag. Then I have to also do a closing PHP tag, just question mark and a greater than. So all your PHP code, so all PHP code goes in here. So any code you put outside of this code won't work. So the same way it works when we get to HTML, I explained that any code you put outside of the HTML tag won't work because you are dealing with HTML. So all your HTML code must be inside your HTML tag. So because you are dealing with PHP too, all your PHP code must be inside a PHP tag. Then another thing about PHP again is for every line of code you write, you must indicate that's where the code ends. So for example, if I do something like this, name, then I do Ben. For me to do another one and say age 24, in PHP this will give me an error. So once I'm writing a single line of code, I have to indicate this is where this one ends by doing a semicolon. Then when I'm done with this, I have to do this also. If not, you get errors. So for every time you are doing a line of code, once you are done with that line of code, you have to indicate or tell PHP I'm done. So by doing a semicolon, then same to this. If not, you get errors. So I just also want to bring that one in. So that's one of the rules when it comes to writing PHP code. Now PHP works identical with JavaScript. So if you're a little bit familiar with JavaScript, most of the things I'll be showing you won't be new to you. So the first topic I'll be covering here will be variables. Now, variable is just a container that helps you hold data, just like how you do in math, whereby you can do let a be equal to 10, and you can say b equals to 55, then c be equals to 6, so that if I now do a plus b, then that will give me, that's 65. So what it simply means, anywhere you see a, you have the number 10, anywhere you see b, you have the number 55. So that's why I'm having a total of 65. So in PHP, this is a variable holding a data called 10, and b is a variable holding a data called 55. But how do you create a data in PHP? So to create a data in PHP, you start with a $sign, then the variable name. So in this case, I can just do num1, indicating my first number, then I say okay, I want 10, then I'll indicate that's where that code ends, then I do num2, then I'll do I want 20, then I can go ahead and do num1. Sorry, I have to indicate the variable num1, then I'm adding it to num2. So this is how you create a variable. So this will give me a total of 30. But let's see how this works. So in this case, I'm going to do, okay, let me just create a new variable called answer, whereby that's this answered will be stored. So all I just have to do is now print that on my browser. So there are two ways I can print on my browser. The first one is using the keyword in PHP called echo, and the other way is using the keyword called, or a function called print. So there's the echo and there's the print. So if I'm using echo, this is how I just do it. I just write the word echo. Because I'm doing a variable, I'll just indicate answer. But if I'm using print, I just have to do print, then open a bracket. Because I'm doing a variable, I just do answer. So this gives me, okay, so now for me to test run my code, this is what I have to do. There is where my website have to be for my PHP code to run. I can't just, for example, okay, let me just show you what I'm saying. If I come to our internship program and try to run the PHP code, so inside PHP I'm trying to run this code. So if I say open with browser, so open with browser, so okay, choose another app, so more apps, then let me indicate a browser. So I'm not even having the option of a browser. Okay, but to just help me save my stress, let me just open one browser, then drag that file in there so that you get what I'm saying. Okay, so one thing you notice is I won't be able to work with them. So what I will do is I'll show you how you can properly run your PHP code and you'll be able to see it function. Okay, so I'll just copy this and put it here. Now you can see that all I'm just seeing is this list of code I'm writing, and this is not how it's been done because I'm not doing it properly. So the best way to do it is to, there is where your PHP code or file have to be for it to roll it properly. So all I just have to do is come to internship, I'll copy the PHP code. Now just follow these steps. So all you just have to do is come to your this PC, even in your case depending on the system you are using, might be to get access to your local disk. So you can see my computer. If you're using Mac, just get access to your local disk. Then once you go to your local disk, you see a folder called XAMPP. When you open the XAMPP, you see a folder called htdocs. Now all your file for PHP must be inside this htdocs file. So this is where I'll be putting my PHP code. So as you can see, I have a lot of files there because I use PHP a lot also. So this is where I'm putting my PHP code. Then if I now want to load this properly, I will do localhost because like like I said, I'm using a local server, so I'll do localhost, then I'll do slash, then the folder name, in this case PHP, now slash. Now because I'm doing so, I'll just do index.php, which is the file name. If I do enter, then you can see that I'm getting this syntax error. It has to do with I'm failing to close. So you see that I failed to close answer here. That's why I'm getting this error. So if I come back here, then refresh, that error should be gone. I'm still having that. Am I spelling echo wrong? Okay, I think I have to do echo to be in string. I think that's where the error is coming from. You just took my light. Let me save my battery. Okay, so I'll put this in string. I think that's where the error is coming from, but that shouldn't be accepted. Okay, I've seen where the error is coming from. So I failed to close my addition. So I failed to close you. So if I save, come to my browser, then refresh, I shouldn't have any problem. So if I refresh now, that error should be gone. I'm still having that. Okay, it's even indicating, it said line 11. So if I come here, where is my line 11? Echo answer. Well, initially I'm not supposed to have this. Okay, let me just follow, except if I'm not spelling them right. But even with this, I'm not supposed to. So if I refresh, I'm still getting the echo. Am I spelling echo right? Here I am. So why am I having an error? Okay, for me to be sure this is working right, let me just do this first. So this is working, so that I know it's not my error. So if I come refresh, so I'm still getting, so this is coming from unexpected echo. That's strange. Oh, I've seen where the error is. I just have to update my file. So I was working with the wrong PHP file, so I have to come and select the right PHP file. Sorry for that. So I'll just quickly come to local disk, come to XAMPP, then come to htdocs and pick the right PHP code. So that should be you. Yes. So I'll just say select folder. So all the code I'm having is just purely my PHP. So if I select this, I can now update this code. So I think I just have to go back to my answer ans, then indicate I'm calling the answer variable. So if I come back, refresh, now you can now see that I'm having 33 because I can either use print to print out my information, or I can use echo to print out my information. Okay, so that's how I can print, and that's how I can create variables when it comes to JavaScript. Okay, now when it comes to, sorry, I said JavaScript, PHP. Now we have different data types, so I'll be touching them. So this is for variables. Let me adjust this a little bit. So this is for variables, so I can just comment these guys out. So the next one is the data type. So data type. Now if you are coming from a JavaScript background, the data type looks identical, or let me say they are the same thing or they are identical. So we have string, then we have numbers. So there is number, and there is then boolean. So let me just make all these guys a comment. So a string is when I create a variable like I did earlier. So let me just say name, then I just don't type alphabet like this in Java. In PHP I get an error. So if I want to do an alphabet, I have to indicate using a quote, either a single quote or a double quote. It still works. So I can just say JSON, then I close, then I can just do, so let me call this first name. So first underscore name. Okay, yes, before I go further, let me just quickly bring this in. Now when you are trying to create a variable, and let's say I want to do first name, for example, now it is very wrong for you to do first name like this and you create space. No, so either this will give you an error in JavaScript. Then you don't start a variable name with number, like I'm trying to do one sum, so number don't work. You don't start with minus, for example, underscore, so symbols in total you don't start with. So if you want to do like something like first name, now there are three ways you can do that. You can combine the first name to be one word, that one is one. Then there's another one, there's another way you can go about it, is to do first, either you do minus name, but which should still give you an error, so underscore is always the best one, so name, which separate them, or you are case sensitive, so first then the next one name, so the name will now be in capital letter, anyone that works best for you, but don't put space when you are trying to create a variable name. So that's for first name. So then there's last, then there's name. So I can just call this word. So this time around I want to use just single quote word. So if I want to bring these guys out, I can just do echo first name, then let me add last name. So last name. So when you are dealing with numbers, like I did for when I was dealing with variables, when you do the plus sign, it simply means add up the two numbers together. But when you are dealing with strings, when you do a plus sign, it simply means join the two words together, the two strings, join them together to be one. So what your addition do in numbers is different from what it does when it comes to strings. So if I save this now, I should have just word combined together. Okay, so I'm having an error in 21. Like I said, I failed to close. So it's a very, very important rule. Hope I'm opening the right guy. Yes, I am. So it's telling me I'm having an error in 21. I think it has to do with concatenation. That should be dot. Sorry, I was trying to use PHP. So this should give me an answer. So I'm having just word. So if I want to separate, I just think I should create that space here. So that gives me just word, which combines the two strings together. Okay, what if I want to do something like this? I want inside my string there should be a single quote, or let's say there should be a double quote. So I want, okay, let's say just, then I want a quote and s, that's a word. Now when I do it like this, I'll have an error because this guy is closed here. So this is expecting me to have an last quote. So if I save now, come here and refresh, you can see I'm getting that error. Now if I want PHP to ignore this string here before this s, I'll just have to indicate a sign that says ignore. So that should be, if I'm picking the right symbol, I'm trying to locate it on my keyboard. Okay, I've seen this is the symbol before your alphabet J. So this simply tells the browser, ignore this string, I want it to be part of what I'm doing. So if I save, come to my browser, refresh, now I don't have that error. Then you can now say I'm having that just word also included to my code, as you can see. So that's a way you can take out some part of your string you don't want. Okay, so the next one we have is called numbers. So numbers, which is what we did when we did the num1 functionality. So num1, I can decide to do either a positive number or a negative number. So I can do num2, then I can do a negative number. So what happens when I try to, sorry, I failed to close you, then I failed to close you again. So let me just try and see if I can print num2 and see if I won't get any error. So num2. So if I save, I still fail to close print. Come to my browser, refresh. You can now see I'm having -10. So which is the number I just saved. Now the last step of that I'm going to touch, we have different types, but I'm just touching 3 for this class. It's called the boolean, which is either true or false. So this gives you true or false. A good example of how you get answers in Boolean would be to use a comparison. You compare two numbers. So let's say, for example, I want to do 10. Is it greater than 11? So this will give you answers is either true or false, which is either yes or no. So if 10 is greater than 11, then you get an answer in true. Then if no, 10 is not greater than 11, you get your answer in false. So that's what Boolean is. When you compare two numbers and they are giving answers is either yes or no. So yes, which stands for true, and no, which stands for false. Okay, so that's for the data types. So the next topic I will be touching, let me just take the data types out. Okay, so the next topic I will be touching would be operators. So this should have its own line, operators. Then I will be starting with the mathematical. So mathematical operators. So these are the simple operators we do math. So there's the addition, there's the subtraction, there's the division, multiplication, and there's the remainder. Okay, so I've used the addition when I was adding two numbers together when I was talking about num, which is the plus. So I can just simply create a variable called, let me just call them num1 like I am used to. So num1 55, then num2 30. So if I want to add, I can just simply do answer is equals to num1, so variable num1 plus num2. So if I check what this would be by using echo, I can just check for answer. So if I save, this should give me an answer on my browser. So you can see I'm having 85. So that's for addition. For subtraction, I'll just simply change this to minus. Then that should give me all that 25. So that's for subtraction. The next one is called multiplication. So when you multiply two numbers together, if I save, come to my browser, refresh, I get 1650. So if you want to know your multiplication sign, it's on top of the number 8. Just hold down your control, your shift key, and use the number 8. It gives you your multiplication. Then there's the division, which is used for dividing. So this will always give it to the lowest number when it comes to your division. Then the last one is called the remainder. Now this is how the remainder works, which is your percentage sign. It gives you what is remaining after the division is done. So if I go back to this, refresh, you can see I'm having 1.8. So if I refresh, I'm having 25. So what will be remaining when I divide 30 by 55? So 30 can only go in 55 once, which will remain 25. So that's what I'm having here, is now 25. So those are the mathematical operators we have. So there's the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, remainder. There are others, but I won't be able to touch them. Okay, let me see if I can touch some. So there's the one we call auto increment. Let me just call increment, which will increase itself. So for example, I want this to increase by 1. So I can just say okay. So I can do answer and say num1. Then initially it should have been like this, plus 1. So if I do answer this time around, I should have 6. So you can see I'm having 56. So by default, num1 is 55, and I'm trying to update num1. So I'm now doing num1, which is 55 plus 1. So I can also do num1 here. And if I want to print out num1, I can just do num1. So that way, if I save this, come back, then refresh, I still have 56, nothing changes. So I'm creating a variable called num1, then I'm picking the num1 I have here, which is 55, then I'm adding 1 to it. Another way I can also go about it is do plus plus. So this is the increment. So if I save, there shouldn't be any changes. That's strange. There shouldn't be any changes. Plus plus. Okay, I'll get back to that. Okay, so that's for the mathematical operators. Okay, the next one I want to touch is now the assignment operator. So assignment operator. Now we'll be using the assignment operator so far when we create variables. So when I do something like first name, so first name is equals to Jesa. So this one equal to is called an assignment operator. I'm assigning the value called Jesa, which is a string, and I'm storing it into a variable called first name. So it's like I'm assigning this data and I'm putting them into this variable. So this is called an assignment operator. So it's used to assign a variable that is on your right hand side to a data type that is on your right hand side, to a variable that is on your left hand side. So that's the assignment operator, is just one. Okay, so the next operator I will be touching is called the comparison. So comparison, if I'm spelling right, operator. Okay, now the comparison operator is used to cross check if two figures are equal. So you compare two values together. So in this case, I'll just do var1 and I'll say Jesa, then I'll do var2, then I'll say word. So then I can just say compare is equals to var1 is equal to var2. So when you use two equal sign, it simply means is what is in var1, which is Jesa, is it the same thing what is in var2, which is what? Are what and Jesa the same thing? If they are the same thing, if it is true, store it on com. If it is false, also store it on com. So if I come and do echo and I do com, hope I saved every word. If not, I might have an error. So if I try to check this on browser, then refresh, hope I saved my document. So if I save, come back, refresh, you can see that nothing is showing. Now the reason why nothing is showing is because echo won't give you an answer either in true or false. So for you to do that, you use a function in PHP called var dump. So I'll just do var, then dump, then in here I'll put com. So this is how I can be able to know if the answer is true or false. So if I save, then come back here, then refresh, you can now say I'm getting a data type of boolean and the answer is false. So it simply means Jesa and word are not the same thing. So what happens when I change this to Jesa in capital letter? So if I save this, then come back, then refresh, you can see I'm still getting false. So it does not matter if the Jesa is in capital letter or is in small letter, it just confirms the words, the alphabet. So two equal sign checks if they are of the same character and if they are of the same words. So if they are of the same word, it's fine, but if they are not of the same character, it won't give you an answer. So if I save this now and return my J to small letters, then refresh, I get true. So what if my J is in capital letter? Save, come back here, refresh, you see that I get false. So they have to be of the same character and of the same words. So that's for one of the comparison operator. Another comparison operator I would touch is the greater than and less than. So for the greater than, I will just do com is var1 greater than var2. So this should give me an answer. So if I come back, refresh, you can now say, sorry, did I do any mistake? Yeah, var1, there's no variable as val. So if I come refresh, then I'm still having, like I said, I'm using a local server, having the same error, unexpected var1. Is there any var1? I fail to close anything. Okay, so var1 is fine. Let me just try to write big from is greater than val2. So if I save this, hope I've saved, then come back, refresh. So I'm still getting that error. Let me cross check. Okay, I've seen where the error is coming from. I failed to put an equal to. So if I save this, then I should be fine. So if I refresh, you can now see that this is true, that JSON is greater than. So this won't work, except let me just change these values to numbers. So let me just do 22, then let me do 30. So this should still give me 2. So if I refresh, I get 2. So if I now check for the less than, so if I save, come back, I should get false. Okay, so that's another one. So that's another comparison operator that checks if the numbers are not of the same values. So there's another one again called the less or equal to. So in this case, if I do the same 22 and I try to do only the less than, so this should give me false. So if I refresh, I'm still getting false. But there's the less and equal to, which we check for two comparisons. First of all, check if the value on the left hand side is less than the one on the right hand side. If it is not, if it gives you an answer of false, then it checks if they are of the same value. Then if they are of the same value, it gives you an answer of true. So if I refresh, you can see I'm getting true. So there's also the greater and equal to. So if I save this, this should still gives me true without changing anything. So the only way I can get false is when this is lesser. So if I refresh, then I get false. So there is the greater or equal to, less or equal to, that checks two values. Okay, there is one more I want to touch, then I will be done with comparison operator. So that should be come, then equals to var1. Then there is the not equal to, then not equal to val2. So this will always give me an answer. So if I save this, I should get my answer as true. So not equal to is saying, is 22 and 21 equal? No, they are not equal, so that's true. So the only time you get false is when they are equal. So is 22 and 21 equal? Yes, they are equal, so you won't get a true answer. So this always checks for the opposite of what the initial parent is supposed to do. So before, if I just do, are they equal? Yes, they are equal, so I get an answer true. But if I do the not, it simply means, are they not equal? Are they not equal? They shouldn't be equal, but they are equal, so you get false. So that's the opposite. That might be a little bit tricky, but that's how it works. You just give you the opposite of what the initial parent is supposed to do. So I can just do not less than, and I still get an answer. So if I refresh, I'm still getting a syntax error. I think this guy is supposed to come, if I'm picking the values right. Yeah, so false. So if I do less than or not equal to, then I get a value of 2. Okay, so that's for the comparison operator. Okay, so I'll take this one out. Then the next topic I'll be touching would be loops. Okay, so the next topics will be loops. So / loops. So for loops, we have 3 types. So there is for loop, there is while loop, and there is do while loop. sorry for that. Okay, so for the for loop, if you are coming from a JavaScript background, it's almost the same syntax. So all I just have to do is do for the for keyword, then I have to have a variable. So let me just call this variable I, and I'll assign a value to it. So in this case 0. Then I have to have an incremental, so I'll say I. So sorry, this variable should be I, not 1. That's a bad way of writing. So I'll now say I is equals to, then the same variable I plus 1. So I'm increasing by 1. Okay, sorry, it's supposed to check. So if I is less than 10, then the code should continue running. Then I have to increase I. So I'll do I is equals to I plus 1. So if I do this, I'll just say echo run this code multiple times. So let me just close this. So if I come to my browser, refresh, I'm having an error on line 56. It said, so line 56 for loop. So I'm having the first, I'm having the second. Okay, sorry, the errors are not supposed to be this, so they are supposed to be semicolons. So if I save this, come back, refresh, now you can see I'm having them written multiple times. Okay, let me hope I'm not having a code that's not ending. I think I'm having a code that's not ending, so that's why you see this guy rolling. So I have my variable, I have my, okay, I've seen the error. So this should be I is less than. So if I come back, stop this code from running, then try to run it again, then I shouldn't have them in multiple. So you can now see that I don't have them in multiple. So okay, let me try to add a break tag to it. So I'll just do the out tag. Then if I come back, refresh, you can now have them on single lines. Okay, and that way I can increase, instead of me writing this I is equals to I plus 1, it's just to simply do I then plus equals to 1. So it's the same thing of what I just did. So if I come back here, refresh, so nothing changes. So that is another way I can also do increment. Okay, so that's for the for loop. So if I want to repeat the same thing for this time around, okay, let me just put the word using for loop. So for the while loop, I have to create the variable first outside. So 1 I is equals to 0. Then I'll do while. Then in here I put my condition. So while I is greater than 10, oh no, that should be less than 10, this code should run. Then I can now write my code. So let me just copy this, guys, down to this place, then use it as mine. So this is for while loop, while using while loop. Then in there I'll have my incremental, so I'll just copy this code. So I want it to always increase. So if I save, then I close this 1, 2. So if I come refresh, you can now see I'm having the same thing, but this time I'm using the while loop. So like I said, the difference is for the for loop, the O code, so the creation of the variable is inside the bracket for your for loop, then the condition which is being checked and the increment are all in the same position. But for the for loop, for the while loop, the creating of the variable is done outside, the condition is done inside the bracket of the while loop, and the implementation is done inside where the code is. So that's for the while loop. Then for the do while loop, so let me just copy this. So if I do the same I is equals to, this time around I'll do 2, then I'll do, then run this code. So I'll just say copy this O code, then come here and paste. So I will now do, so then I'll do my while. So while, then I'll put my condition I is less than 1. Okay, so what this is simply saying, I already have I, but do while loop will run the code even when this condition is getting to false. So this will now say run this code, then print out this using a do while loop. So this should be do while loop. Then because this code should always run while while I is less than 1 and I is not less than 1, which will give me false. So I'll close this. Then if I come to my browser, refresh, you can see that I only have this code run once. So do while loop will still run just 1 even if the condition tends to now become false. So these are the loops we have in PHP that enable us to repeat some codes without writing them multiple times. Okay, so that's for loops. You can keep practicing. Okay, the next one I want to touch to help us to be able to understand this better is an array. So let's say, for example, I want to create a list of cars. So let me just say car 1. So car 1. So let me just indicate array. We are creating an array. So I want to create a list of cars. So car 1 is equals to row. Then car 2 is equals to Benz. Then car 3 is equals to Lamborghini. If I'm spelling right, just forgive me. Okay, so with this I have 3 different cars, but I'm creating 3 different variables. Imagine I'll be having like about 10 cars, then I'll be creating 10 variables, which is not working properly for me. So one thing I'll be building I like about PHP is the array aspect, whereby I can just use one variable, can call them cars, and indicate I want you to combine, I want to have multiple values stored inside just one car. So if I'm to create an array, I'll use the word array, then open brackets, then in here I'll now put my values. So the first one would be Volvo, then the second one is Benz. Okay, the third one I will change, let me just use BMW. Okay, so then I end this. So if I want to kind of print out anyone, I can just simply do print, then I'll indicate car, in this case cars, then I'll indicate the position. Now for every information I'm storing in my array, I have a position, and in the position starts on a 0 basics. So this is on position 0, Benz is on position 1, BMW is on position 2. So if I want to indicate, I want to show Benz, I will do position 1, the position Benz is, then that should give me Benz printed out. So if I want BMW, that should be 2. So if I save, come back here, refresh, I get. So instead of me creating multiple variables like this to indicate or to all each cars, I can just create just one variable, then put all my values into an array, then I can get the arrays based on the key or the position of those values. Okay, so that's for array. There are different things you can do with it. I can only, like I said, this is just the basics, so you can have more information on them. Okay, so that's for array. The next one I want to touch would be functions. Okay, so functions in PHP. So the next topic would be functions. So if I'm spelling my functions well, you know what happened to me this morning. Okay, so now function is just a set of code which you want to keep using anytime you need the code. So it's just like I have a keyword to enter a store. So every time I want to get something from the store, I must use that keyword. So the amount of time I use that keyword will determine how many times I'll be able to have access to the store. So same thing work with function. Now we've worked with a lot of functions in PHP. So a while is a function. So once you are seeing a word that is having a bracket like this, you're having a function. So print is just, these are built-in function from JavaScript. So we have a lot of them, but this time around we'll be looking at how we can create our own. So to create function, you have to start with the word function. So you have to start with the keyword function, then followed by a function name. So every function must have a name. Then after that you come with the parentheses. Then after that you have your curly brackets, then in here your code. So code goes in here. So this is how you create your function. So I could just easily comment this guy out. So I will be creating function, and this function would be create a pi number. So that's the name of my function. Then inside there, all I just have to do is echo pi. So this will give me a pi number that PHP has. So for me to be able to, because if I save this now, come to my browser, refresh, I'm not having anything. So for me to be able to run this code, I need to call the function. So I'll just do create, then a pi number. So I'll call this, then if I save, come back, refresh, then you can see I'm having some random numbers, which is for pi. So I can as well repeat this guy multiple times to get the number on multiple locations. So for that I will add a concatenation and say I want a break tag so that each of them should be on their own line. So then I close that. So if I repeat this function thrice, it means I want that number 3 times. So if I save, come back and refresh, you can see I'm getting those numbers 3 times. So apart from that, what else can I do with function? So let me just comment these guys out. Then I'll create another function. Then this time around I'll name them math. Then I'll just do this. So let me just do num1 is equals to 10, then num2 is equals to 11. So I can just do answer is equals to num1, sorry if I'm cutting the variable right, num1, which is plus num2. So I can just do echo me answer. So then I can just call math. So this will give me an answer. So if I refresh, I get 21. So I can just do normal mathematical equation. So instead of me writing them inside, I can go ahead and just do them as, so I can pass them as parameters to my function. So parameter is what I put in here. So this can be parameter. Then so anything I put in here is a parameter. So like I did for print. So anytime I want to use the print function, I have to do print. Then inside I have to pass a parameter. So anything I type here is what I call the parameter, which is what I want to be printed out. So if I save this, let me comment out my function so that you get a better idea of what I'm saying. So then I have those words. Hope I'm not 94. Line 94. Which of them I failed to close? I've closed my math. So am I having, yeah, so I get this. So that's what parameter is, what you just pass inside your curly bracket or your bracket. So I can just comment out the comment, the print, then bring out every other one we are working with. So I want to pass the values as a parameter to this, so I'll be creating the variable inside. So I'll just do, sorry, so num1 is equals to so 5. Then I'll separate, then the second parameter will now be num2 is equals to 6. So if I save this, hope I won't get any error, refresh, I get 11. So that is being passed. So another way I can do it is, instead of me stressing myself creating them here, I can just indicate the variable names. So num1, num2. Then when I'm calling the function, this is a little bit dynamic, then I can now pass the values. So I can just say 55, then 8. So if I save this, come back, refresh, so num1 in, so variable num1, where is my error coming from? So sorry, num1 not num. So if I save this, I should be good to go. So I'm having 83. So if I call this function again, let's say I call them multiple times, then let me just do a break tag to that also. So br tag, so that I have them on separate lines, so I can assign different values to them and I get different answers. So this one I can do 10, then here I'll do 16. So if I save, come back, refresh, so which of them are math? Did I? Okay, sorry, I failed to close each and every one of them. I did. So that's one thing about PHP. So if I refresh, so you can see I'm having 63, then 11, then 26. So each value are doing separate things. So one thing you just know about function is, you have your function name, use the keyword function, then your bracket. Then if you want to pass in parameters to them, you can. Then in there you put what your code would be, then you call those functions. So that's how function works when it comes to PHP. Okay, so I can just comment this out. Okay, so the next topic I'll be covering would be date and time in PHP. How do we get date and time in PHP? Okay, so I'll use the date. So there is a function in PHP called date to give you the current date. So in this case, I will use a function. Then inside this function, I'll just say check date. So I want to know the current date I am, so I can just do date. Then this date takes 3 parameters: the year, the month, and the day. So they can be the day, the month, and the year. The month, so anyone you want, in which order you want. So if I come here, I have to call my function, so I can just do check date, then I can save. So if I come here, refresh, sorry, I opened the wrong file, refresh, hope I'm not getting an error. I'm getting an error in check dates. Which of them did I fail to close? Date. Let me check what the error is. So if I come here, it's telling me cannot redeclare check function. Okay, I think this is giving me an error, so let me just take it out of a function. So let me comment it out. So I can just say date. So if I save this, come back here, refresh, I should have a date working. So the error is coming from my date. I think date have to be in capital letter. Okay, let me be sure of that. Okay, so let me just check. So if I come to my browser, I'm now having my date. Okay, I think I know where the error is coming from, so I failed to do echo or print. So if I save this, I should now have them working back. Okay, so I'm having 23/01/27. So this was on the 27th of January 2023, because I started with the year. So if I swap them to date and year, then that should give me them in proper. Okay, so I think probably it was because I failed to do echo inside the function. So let me try that again to be very sure. So if I call this, so if If I refresh, okay, I still get the same errors. I think probably you can't do a date inside the function. Okay, so that's how dates work when you want to get the current date. Somebody like create an account on your platform and you want to have a record on that of that date, so you can use the date functionality. Now the next one I want to touch, which I love so much, is the include function in PHP. So I'll just do include. Now how the include function work is I can easily include other PHP code I have and add them to other tags. Now for me to do that, I'll just quickly create some. So let me just call these okay, let me call this part A dot php. Then I'll create another one called part B dot php. So I want to do the include function, but I want to do them inside separately so that I understand where I'm coming from. So in here I'll just do for the part A my code. So I'll just write the word part A here. So I'll just write a section tag that will have, okay, let me just do comment. So I'll do a PHP tag here, then I'll write a comment there. So I'll just simply say part B will be included in part A. So then I can just save this. This won't show on my browser. So if I come here, let me just close this one, copy this guy, open a new tab, and go to part B, part A. So part A. So I'll have an empty value. So I'll come to part B and put some information I want to be in part A. So I'll do section. So I'll do section. Then inside this section, I'm going to have a div. Then inside this div, I'm going to have an h2. Okay, so in this h2, I'm just going to write this is a text from part B that would be included into part A. So now I have this on part B, but I want this value in part A. So all I will just simply do is this. I'll just come here and do PHP. Okay, let me just use the same PHP code I have here. So I'll put them on separate lines, then bring the comment also on a separate line. So all I just have to do is do the word include, which is a function, and it takes a parameter. So it takes the parameter of part B. So I'll just do part B dot php. Now the reason I'm not putting them because they're on the same location. Assuming part B is inside the folder, I have to indicate the folder. So if I'm done, so if I save, then come to part A, refresh, you can now see I'm having the value of part B inside part A. So if I want the same thing on part C, so let me just say A and B here, and B, so A and C. So I want the same thing on C, so I'll just copy everything I have in A, then create a new folder, then I'll say part C. So I'll do PHP, then I can just put the code there, then here will be part C. So one thing I love about this is, so the same thing I have in part A, if I refresh, it should update to A and C. So if I go to part B, if I go to part B, save, I'm not supposed to save, just enter, then I have the same text. So sweet. Now a good way, let me just do a live case scenario. So instead of me doing part A, part B, I will just create a folder called include. That is the way I do them. Then inside this folder, I'll create a file called menu. So I want my menu.php. Then inside this menu.php, I'll have my menu. So I'll just create a random menu. So I'll just do section. Then this section should have a navigation. Then this navigation should have 8 tags. How many do I need? So let me just do 4. So I'll try to break each of them down. So a tag, so then this is another, this is another. So then I can just, sorry, I broke this wrongly. So then this is another. So I don't want them to go anywhere. I can just multiple select them. Then you are going nowhere. Okay, so my tab should be brought down. Okay, so in here for the first one I'll have home. For the second one I'll have about, and for the third one I'll have services, and for the fourth I'll have contact. Okay, I'm just trying to do a live scenario. This is not how a menu should look like. So if I save this, I already have my menu. So if I come to index, no, sorry, part A. So in here I can just say include. I want you to include my menu. So I'll just do the include folder, then slash, then the name of the menu.php. So if I save this, come back, refresh. So this is part B. So let me go to part A. Part A, then you can now say I'm having my menu. So I can just repeat the same thing for part B and part C, and the menu will be used. So if I come to part C, just copy everything I have in part A so that it's easier. So come to part B, paste them, then this will be part B. Save. Then if I come to part C, I just select or paste, then this will be part C. So if I save, I can just easily, okay, so let me just, in my menu I can just, instead of saying for the home, it will take me to part A.php. For the other one should take me to part B.php, and for the services should take me to part C.php. So if I save this, it will be applied to all. So if I come to this, I'm on part A. So if I go to about, it takes me to part B. So if I go to services, it takes me to part C. So each of them are having menu, and I don't have to repeat the menu on each page like you can do in HTML. So I'll just put my menu in a folder, then I use an include function in PHP to include whatever I want into my file. So that's one thing I love about the include. It's so interesting. Okay, so the next one is called the section. So section, okay, now a section is also a function in PHP. So that should be in small letter, that enables you to transfer data from one page to another. So a section enables you to transfer data from one page to another. Okay, and once you are using section, so you have to do section underscore start. So there are different sections. So if I do underscore, so there are different things I can do on that section. I can abort a section, I can commit a section, I can create a section ID, I can destroy a section, decode, encode. Then if I scroll down, you can see different things you can do when it comes to section. But the one we'll be working on is start. So anytime we want to use a section, we need to start it. Now when we start a section, it now gives us a variable name. I'll call it a unique variable name that is attached to section, which is $. So it gives you this $_ underscore section, so in capital letter. So this is a unique name, so I can just do name here. That a unique variable that comes with section. But for you to be able to use this variable name, you have to always start section. So I'll be showing you in a live case scenario how that is done. So like I said, it's used to pass information from one place to another. So I'll still be using with part A and part B. So in this case, I need some information in part that I'll be collecting from a user in part A, but I need it in part B. So I won't be using the menu here. So I'll just simply do section, then I want a div, then I want input field. So I want to input field with a type of text. So if I do text, then I want them as 2. Sorry, text, then I want 2 of them, so 2. Okay, so I can just easily, I don't need the PHP, sorry, so that I don't have these errors again. So I don't need the PHP function. So in here I have input, in here I have input, then I can just close. Okay, then I need a button, so I'll do a button. So here I'll just do sign up. So that should be inside the form. So I failed to do form, then I come here, copy this, then paste them here. Okay, so this is the proper way of going about it. So if I come here, refresh, so this is part C. Let me just go back to part A. So part A, am I on part A or part C? Okay, this is part B, so sorry for that. Okay, I said I needed it. I want what I have in part A to be in part B, so let me just quickly transfer this to part A. So I don't need the PHP tag again, so I'll just change that. So do my proper alignment. Okay, so if I save this, then I have my input field. So I have 2 input fields, then I have a sign up. So I can just simply include something to this. So I can do a placeholder so that the user know what they are typing in. So I'll just do placeholder. Then in this case I'll do first name, so you know you're typing in your first name. Then another placeholder, then you're typing in your second name. So I'll just do last name. Then if I save this, the user should know what to fill in each input field before they sign up. Okay, so for that I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about form validation, so that before I continue with the section. So I have my form now. So for me to be able to send this form, I need 2 things. So there's 2 attributes my form attributes we have. There's the action and there's the method. So I'll explain that when we get to the form validation part. I just want to do a little bit introduction. Okay, so the first one is the action. The action simply means a folder that will undo the form. So for this case, I'll be using the same folder I have, in this case part A.php, so it will undo itself. Okay, no, just to save us stress. So let me just create a folder called form validation. Then inside this folder I'm just going to create undo part A form.php. Okay, so this is where I'll write audio code for my PHP code. I'll undo the form. So here I'll just indicate here the file is. So I'll do form, then validation, then slash undo, if I'm spelling right, undo part A form.php. Okay, so the action will take the file that will undo the form. So in this case is this undo part A form. So then the method, I'll explain that later. I'll just do post. So in here, if I come here and fill any information here, so for example, if I do first name Sheung, second name Akin, if I sign up, this should automatically give me nothing. Are we together? So that shouldn't be did I save my document. It should automatically take me to the next one. So if I do that again, so let me refresh this, then do Sheung, then do Akin. So if I sign up, you can see it takes me to this file called form validation, which is ready to undo my form. Okay, now on this form side, I need this information. So I need whatever the user type in the first name, then I also need what the user type in the second name. Now for me to do that, I need to put something in the name value here. I don't need the ID, so for now let me just take it out. I don't need the ID, let me take it out. But for PHP, I need the name attribute and the name attribute here. So in here I'll just do first name. so which is indicating first name here. Then here I'll do last name, which is indicating last name here. So if I save this, then here I have to do a name attribute. Also, I'll explain why that's been done. So if I come here, I can just do sign up. So if I save this, then when it comes to here, I have to get those values. So I'll do a variable, which is a custom variable that comes with PHP underscore post. Now, okay, sorry, I have to do my PHP code. So PHP, then I close that code. If not, this function won't work. So this is a special variable name that comes with PHP and is being used when you are using a value, a method of post. So when we get to form derivation, I'll give you different methods we have. So I can just quickly do this. So I'll just say I'm creating my own variable called first name. Then I'm using this special PHP variable name. Then I'm doing first name. Then I close this. So this is what is happening. Now I'm using this post, which is coming from my part A form where I'm having a method of post. Then this first name is coming from this input field called first name. So whatever I put in this name attribute is what must be inside this square bracket. So if I'm to be sure I'm picking them, I can just do echo first name. So then I close that. So if I go back to refresh this and say okay, so it said first name, undefined variable first name. Okay, I think let me just go back and fill the form again. So if I go back, refresh, so first name, let me do JSON, then last name word. So if I do sign up, you can see I'm having JSON as the first name. So I can just do something like this. So I can just do my first name is, then I concatenate the first name. So if I come back, refresh this, then I shouldn't have any error. You can now see my first name is Jessa. So that's how I can get what the user typed in an input field. So I need both the first name and the last name. So I'll do first name, then I'll do last name. Then I can just simply do post. Then I will simply do last name. So I can then close this. So I've gotten the first name, then I've gotten the last name, right? But like I said, I want to be able to pass this information to part B. So for me to do that, I need to start my section. So I'll do section underscore start. Then after that, I've gotten what I want, both the first name and the last name. So I'll just simply do a special variable like I explained that section gives to you. Then I'm going to name this first name, like anything you can put in here. Okay, let me just do f name, so which is standing for first name, but I'm going to assign a value to it, which is coming from this variable that I'm storing the name. So I'll just come here and do first name, then I can just do section, this underscore section, then I can do last name. And so that you understand that I can use any value for them inside. So I can just do last name. So let me just quickly explain. Whatever the person is typing is saving in here, and which is what I'm taking and I'm saving it inside this variable, a special variable from PHP that is you can use when you start a section. So I'm repeating the same thing here because I need those values in part B. So for me to go to part B, I'll just quickly do a redirect. So I'll just do header, then I'll do location. So because I'm inside undo form, I'll go out a bit, then I'll say okay, go to part B .php. So I will just close this. So if I save this, if this is done properly, if I go back, refresh, then fill them again, just so what, and click sign up. So it's giving me an error in my first name. Let me just quickly check that. So it's saying there's nothing like first name. Let me be sure of the error it's giving me. So underscore post first name, Okay, let me be sure. Let me just copy what I have here so that I'm not having any error. Then come to undo from, then put it here. Then copy what I have here, then put it here. So if I save this, come back to my browser, it said on line 3. So why am I having that error? Line 3. Okay, sorry, I failed to close section. Sometimes PHP can be very funny. So if I retry this again, then so this is part B. So I don't need this. So if I come to part B, I don't need the form I did there. So let me just take it out. So let me just write H1 part B so that you know it takes me to part B. So I'll just close the H1. So if I save this, come to my browser, refresh. So this is part B. So this is part A. So let me just fill a different name. So let me say Sheung, then let me say Akin. So if I sign up, this should automatically take me to part B. But part B, I want whatever the user type in here. So all I just simply have to do in part B is just simply use a PHP code, then close the PHP code. Then in here I can just simply do section underscore start. So section underscore start. Then I'm starting the section. So I now have access to these variables I created here. So I'll assign them to a new variable. So I'll just do first name here equals to, so I'll pick that section. So let me just come here and copy this. So I'll just get this section, then put them on part B. So I'll just repeat the same thing here. Then I do last name, then I copy the one from last name, so that will be repeating my code most of the time. So I come to part B, then I do last name. So I can just do something like this. I can just do echo H1 and I'll write my name is. Then I'll concatenate first name, which is a variable. Then I'll concatenate my continuation of the text. My name is. Okay, I think my first name is. Okay, my first name is. Then that will give me the name, the person field. Then I'll say my. So let me just do comma here. My last name is. Then I'll concatenate the last name. So last name, then I can just easily close this. So hope I'm closing well. So this is the opening, this is the closing. Okay, I think I should just do, okay, I think that should be fine. So if I save this, if I'm not getting any errors, come back to part B, refresh. So I'm getting an error that there is unexpected variable first name. So I think I should just simply go back and fill the form again. So refresh. So first name Jessa, last name Word, if I will have that error. Then sign up. Okay, I'm having that. So on line 15 on part B, I'm having an error. So line 15 here. Okay, sorry, I keep forgetting. I failed to close this guy here. So if I save this, come back here, refresh, and you can now see my first name is Jessa and my last name is Word. So if I come here and change to a different word, and let's say my first name is Ben and my last name is Stone. Okay, I think John Stone, Man City player. So my first name is John and my last name is Stone. If I save on part B, I have the value here, John, then Stone. So that's how I can pass information from one page to another using section, the section function in my PHP code. Okay, so the last part I will be touching will just be form validation, to talk a little bit about how form validation works in PHP. So that should be the last section, form validation on our validation. Okay, so